Hi there. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tinnitist TV. Today I am talking to Larkin Poe. They had a pretty good year in 2024. They reunited with old pals Elvis Costello and T-Bone Burnett on TV. They worked with an up-and-coming artist named Ringo Starr. And oh yeah, they won their first Grammy Award for Best Contemporary Blues Album for their 2022 LP Blood Harmony. But for sisters Rebecca and Megan Lovell, 2025 is already off to a good start in the form of their superb new album, Bloom. Self-produced with the help of Rebecca's husband, Tyler Bryant, the siblings' seventh studio set is also their strongest and most fully formed release to date, with songs that not only stand on their own, but also adhere into a coherent, cohesive whole. Shortly before Bloom arrived, the Lovells zoomed in from Nashville to talk about playing by their own rules, their live show, their relationship, reuniting with Ringo, and lots more. Enjoy.
Hello.
Hello, how are you both doing today?
Excellent. How are
Very
you?
well.
I am good, thanks for asking. It is a pleasure to talk to you again. How were your holidays? Did you guys get some time off, or were you just workaholicing right through it?
A little bit of both. We did get some sweet time, but especially coming into the release of the record, there's been so much anticipation, and we're just really excited for Bloom to finally be coming out.
Oh, exactly. I mean, and I can see why you would want to keep the momentum going, given that I don't think you could have had a better 2024 than you did.
It was a crazy year. Yeah, almost unbelievable looking back on it. But it was a super fun year. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, before we talk about Bloom, because there's a lot I want to talk about with that, but let's just review a couple of these things. A year ago, almost to the month or so, you won your first Grammy. Um, Come on, that's a great feeling, right? After all these years of working and being in the business and making music.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience. Very unexpected, but very appreciated.
You didn't think this is our year, we got this one. Screw Sam Fish, this is ours. We're gonna wrestle for it.
I don't know. I don't really feel that we had attached any expectation to it. Clearly, like over the years, having started our own record label and produced our own records and write all our own songs and be very self-reliant, I do think that it was quite a surprise to receive that kind of a nod from the music industry at large. And it just felt great. It just felt like gravy on the top. And it was interesting as well because we went out to the Grammys while we were in the middle of writing for Bloom. So we
Hmm.
sort of took a little break to go out to Los Angeles and then came back on an incredible high and were able to sort of translate some of that positive energy into the writing process for the rest of the record. So it was very special timing as well.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting. Did you find that when you talk about putting positive energy in, I mean, did you find that it changed some songs in terms of stuff you'd already written that you went back and revisited, or did it just kind of going forward from there, it was a different experience?
No, I just think if anything, we were already on a really good tear with the
Hmm.
writing process for Bloom.
Yeah.
We had, made some new commitments in our approach to songwriting together, co-writing everything as sisters,
Hmm.
and including our co-producer and co-writer Tyler Bryant. So I think if anything, the positive energy just felt like, hey, you're on the right path, like carry on.
Right.
And that's kind of what we needed, just wind beneath the wings. And we already knew where we were flying. We just got there really fast.
But faking it till you make it is it works because it's like just self-confidence. It's just a
Sure.
belief and a faith that things will come.
Mm.
And I think that's where we were situated in the whole process of writing for Bloom, and going out and winning the Grammy certainly didn't hurt. Like, I mean, that was a little bit of a confidence boost. And that's really, I think, what helped the writing process for this record was just having like self-confidence in the work that we were going to do.
Right. So, okay, let's talk about that process then. I mean, obviously, you've both written before, you've written together. How did you sort of work at this time where you're going to be, okay, this is going to be a three-legged beast, in terms of the two of you and Tyler? How does that
Yeah.
change the process?
I think in records past, there was, some safety to be found in writing individually. That I would come up with some ideas, Megan would have some ideas, and then we'd come together and, we'd have a basis upon which to work, which was wonderful. But I do think we made the commitment with Bloom to co-write everything from the ground up because specifically we wanted to remove any preconceived ideas about what kind of record we should make. Clearly, we've
Hmm.
made a name for ourselves in sort of the blues rock space, winning the Grammy as a contemporary blues artist. But I think we were very protective about not wanting to attach any genre to or character. We're going to write, sort of a blues rock song, and that limits you in what lyrical message you might try to work into that piece of music. So we sort of stripped all that aside, and maybe there was like some evolution in our relationship, some laying down of sibling rivalry that allowed us to really access some new creative spaces between the two of us to truly co-write this whole record. And as Megan said, the self-confidence of, what, hey, we're going to build it and they will come, and we're going to figure out what we're building as we go. And so that really did, we took sort of a leap of faith into the process.
One of the things I love about the album is that for me, I think a little more so than anything you've done before, this one feels to me and comes out of the speakers at me as an album in the sense of it really feels like something that's made to be listened to from front to back, and that all the songs kind of, there seems to be not necessarily a narrative, but an arc to the songs. It really feels like something that is a product of one sustained creative effort, as opposed to a bunch of separate songs, right? That you've just put together. Was that something you were going after from the start, or is that just sort of how it came out in the process?
That's very interesting that you say that because I think it was written in a slightly different way and a little less piecemeal than previous
Right.
projects. So one writing session led into another, led into another. So, and these are conversations that we're having kind of on the day where even the conversation that we had yesterday is impacting the conversation that we're having today, which is leading to a new song. Because we really would just sit down with coffee and talk about like, what are we experiencing? What are you thinking about? Like, how do you view success? How are you feeling about self-acceptance? Like, what are you thinking? And that led into new conversations, led into new conversations. And we didn't necessarily set out to do that,
Mhm.
but and we certainly didn't have a theme for the record. It wasn't going to be like, well, we're going to write an album about self-acceptance. But once we look back on the body of work, suddenly
Right.
it did take on kind of a storyline, like an arc and a narrative, and you can see the conversations as they're meandering and what we're feeling. So I think it's really cool. It's a snapshot of time. It's the month or two that we were writing and recording, and that's it.
Was there something in the air, something else going on that sort of brought this theme of self-acceptance and individuality and self-determination to the front of your minds?
Yeah, I mean, I do think Larkin Poe has been touring now. We realize that this is our 15th year of being a band. So we've been to a few rodeos, we've been there and back a couple of times, and we have achieved incredible things in our career. We've done things that we never thought that we would pull off. And I think there was this dawning that was beginning for both my sister and I here in the last 18, 24 months of, okay, wow, like, we can achieve heights that we wouldn't have anticipated. And yet, as you travel through your life and your experiences and your successes or your failures, like we're still here. Every ounce of who we've ever been is along for the journey. And having that realization of, okay, if I am actually trying to attach my okayness or my sense of identity to the things that I'm achieving in life, it's a fool's errand because you really got to start from a much deeper level, I think, of fulfillment and self-acceptance in order to be able to make sense of this random experience of life. For instance, I remember being backstage at literally our biggest headline show to date over in Europe. This is maybe 2020. 23, I think 2023. And it was a very unique experience because I felt very deflated. I felt like, oh man, like I'm so nervous. I hope these people like the show. Like, are we enough? We're playing this,
It's a huge
this
venue.
huge
Are
venue, and
you
like
enough?
so good enough, and like,
Oh, and it was sold out. It was
it
like
was sold out.
there's every
Reason to
reason.
be happy. And yet in that moment, I felt an absence. I felt like a void. And that really scared me because I didn't really feel
Mhm.
happy. I felt so much pressure um, to get up on that stage and do something amazing for these people that had parked their car in London, God knows where, and bought that ticket and walked to the venue and bought a snack and bought the CD. And it was just like this overwhelming experience of like, oh man, this isn't right. This isn't working. And that I think really pushed some of the conversations to the front of like the queue for Megan and I to really work through some stuff and like make peace and are like, all right, let's reduce it down to the essential components. Like, who are we? What's really going to make us continue to tick and thrive and be able to perpetuate through these many more years of life that we have to live and career to give to people, art to give to people.
Do you have or did you have to realign the way you relate professionally versus the way you relate personally? Is there a difference?
I
Hmm.
think that's an interesting question. Actually, I don't know how to answer that. What do you think?
No, I actually think that we don't have a relationship outside of Larkin Poe. It's all, I think actually Larkin Poe is our relationship to each other, and that's what it is. At the heart of all of this, it's our relationship with each other. So if anything, our personal lives are Larkin Poe. I'm not explaining this very eloquently,
Are
but
you
it's
saying you don't spend
the
time
heart.
together when you're not working?
No,
No.
we're together all the time.
Oh,
We
okay.
have not spent more than 3 weeks apart in our entire lives. And a lot of that is by choice. Like we're genuinely very, very good friends. And I agree with you. I think that Larkin Poe is sort of the intellectual manifestation of the relationship and the space that exists between us as sisters.
Mm,
So we do put so much of who we are as people into this band and into the songs that we write. And I think you can hear how that has refined over the years. Like when you're speaking about
yeah.
records past, we've made great records, but you can hear our facility and our maturity growing with each project. And that's because I think that we are, to the best of our ability, trying to be very real in our band, which I think is exactly what leads to the crux of the issue. Is it's very confusing, I think, to have grown up in the public eye, and especially in showbiz, baby, where it's like the show must go on. And if you're having a
Right.
hard day, doesn't matter, there's a show to put on. We sort of found ourselves kind of trapped into a little box that we had built and we could deconstruct. So I think in a lot of ways, like winning the Grammy and, morning of the Grammy, we felt one way. Night of having won a Grammy, we felt the same way. That again, it was just sort of this lesson of like, okay, achieving certain things doesn't necessarily have an impact on your ability to accept yourself and to know that you're okay and enough and valuable in this life. You cannot add conditions to that experience. So
Right. Right.
it's sort of, that's a very long and rambling
But one
response.
thing I will say, our relationship is bulletproof. There is so much respect and faith that has been very, very hard won.
Mm.
So this relationship eclipses everything that Larkin Poe is. It's the axis around which everything else spins.
Yeah, I can believe it. Talking about the Grammy, a lot of artists in your position, after having won, would maybe take advantage of or feel tempted to go, you know what? Hey, we just won a Grammy. We can get Dave Cobb to produce our next album. We can get Shooter Jennings. We can get David Barbie. We can get, that can open doors. It can get people to take your calls. You obviously have, well, I don't want to say zero interest in that, but you didn't go and do that. You went right back to work very self-determinedly, doing it yourself the same way. I mean, the album even has the same sonic footprint as the last couple, where it's like Rebecca's guitar's on the left, Megan's guitar's on the right. I'm right at home here. I know exactly what's coming at me. I guess this is a long way of asking, why did you not feel the need to fix what isn't broken?
Oh,
I think one, we so enjoy being able to have the freedom. And to be clear, we love collaborations.
Hmm.
And if ever there were opportunities, in a really organic way to work with any of the names that you mentioned, we'd love it. It'd be super fun. But I think that that's not necessarily what people would expect from Larkin Poe, and it's not what we would expect from Larkin Poe. I think what makes Larkin Poe is the fact that we are very self-reliant and we are allowed to be quirky and unique in the ways that we are quirky and unique because there's no one in the studio telling us not to do those things. And that
Right.
honestly was also a lesson that we had to learn the hard way. We're very fortunate to have grown up with the language of music from a very young age, and from a very young age touring with other artists as hired guns. So we, by training, are musical chameleons. We can play hard rock, we can play with the flavor of country, bluegrass, gospel. Like we can really, smooth our way into just about any musical scenario. So we, in years past, had found ourselves in positions in the studio with producers, and we were very effectively able to shape ourselves into whatever a producer thought that we should sound like and pull it off. And that,
Hmm.
I think, was a lesson to be learned for Megan and myself, that, hey, okay, if we want to sound like Larkin Poe, we need to kick everybody out and we need to play all the instruments. We need to write all the songs. We need to produce it. We need to be the ones calling the shots so that we are given the tools of self-reliance to know how to answer the questions of what is Larkin Poe.
Right, right. Is there anybody that if the phone rang and it was like, holy shit, it's that you would go, okay, okay, we'll do that.
I will say there's a reason why the theme of this album stands. I
Hmm.
think that we're in a place where we are realizing that self-acceptance is very key for us.
Yeah.
And I think that we are very much people pleasers. I think that we would need to find this part of ourselves that needs to say yes, and figure out the ways that we can say no before we can effectively work with others in the producing sense. For
Right.
Larkin Poe, now if it's for something else, like we've worked with people for TV a lot this past year. We're still doing that. We played on Ringo's album, like where we're working with
Yes.
Tito and Burnett. Like these are all places where we can like exercise that the yes men in us. But I do think that we are still in the process of being able to know who we are and be like, I'm not doing that. I don't know
Right.
that like to a place where we can say that yet. And that's a weird thing to say in my mid 30s. But at least
Uh,
I'm aware of it, and
yeah,
that's
no, and you're in a good place. Yeah. And it's a right time for you. I mean, you guys have been around for, as you said, 15 years now. I think, a lot of these things now, they're coming to you at the right point in your lives where they're not going to turn your heads or you're not going to start to be deluded about this or that or the other thing. You have a very realistic, honest view of here's what the truth of this business is, and here's how we've learned to navigate it over the years. I want to touch just for a second briefly on getting back together with Elvis and T-Bone, and yeah, that Ringo thing. What are those things like for you? Are they do you kind of I know you're professional in the moment and all that, but at the same time, especially with Ringo, I think there's got to be a little, holy shit, it's Ringo Starr.
Absolutely. There are totally butterflies associated with any of those collaborations.
Yeah,
Less so with Elvis because he is just our buddy and we love him so dearly. And he
sure.
truly, over the years, has been one of our greatest champions and mentors. So we're just, we're like his little soldiers, like we'll follow him to the very end. But with walking into the room, for just as recently as this past week for rehearsals with Ringo for some upcoming shows that we're going to be performing at the Ryman.
Oh, wow.
It is very surreal to just walk in the room and there's Ringo
you
and
fist bump with him, like, yeah, super. It was just super cool and chill. And then I like wandered past Ringo to go and stare with heart eyes at Paul Franklin who is an incredible pedal steel player
Yes.
and one of the best in the world. And so even to be in the room with like people like that who are like instrumentalists that I am, I go goo for, you know, and
Uh-huh.
it's pretty cool to be in that situation and like be working with those folks and
And
just
Yeah,
like
no kidding.
casual.
And they should be happy to be working with you. Come on, Grammy winner Larkin Poe. Come on.
it's true, and it's everyone's there for the same reason, which is the music. And
Yeah.
that I think is the greatest like equalizing factor is that everybody in that room is genuinely excited about the music, excited about the songs, excited about, you know, the spontaneity that's going to happen in the jams. And so it's very, very special and we don't take it lightly. And also by the same token, it's so much fun that it can be light.
Yeah, no kidding. I want to ask you about playing live because I've been fortunate enough to see you a couple of times over the years, but I've only seen you in a festival setting. You know, daytime stage. I think the last time was Mempho in 2023, and they're great shows. But I suspect that it's a different experience to the show you play when you're in a theater or a ballroom or wherever under your own steam. I mean, to me, the festival daytime thing is almost like, I don't know, blind dating or speed dating, where, you know, you have to
Yeah.
go out there and make a great first impression, and nobody really might know you. It's the middle of the day. It's like a coffee date or something. Do you, how do you, how do you approach one versus the other in terms of, you know, your job up there to entertain and to communicate and connect with people?
I love the speed dating analogy because I do think that our headline shows are more like it's a few months into dating. It's or maybe even a few
Yeah,
years.
it's
There's an
Netflix and chill.
intimacy there. Like, yeah, there's like an intimacy there that just that you can't have with a festival. A festival is for a good time. And but we're able to have, I think, more intimate moments in our headline shows, which is what I love about them.
Yeah,
Certainly we love to have moments that are stripped back in the show where we like on our last headline tour, we actually brought out just a single microphone, you know, and we went to all acoustic instruments and then we had to tell the audience to be very, very, very quiet so that they could hear us around one mic. And that was such a special moment. You could like hear a pin
yeah.
drop and everybody breathing. And it's just magical.
Sweet. Getting back to the new album for a minute. One of my favorite moments on the album is 2 minutes and 45 seconds into the song Pearl, when you just cut loose with this. It makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up, and I'm just wondering, whose face do you have to picture to get that angry in that
I want to
moment?
know this.
Oh man. That song is such an incredible vehicle for rage because I do think that everyone's got to let steam off. You know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh.
there's a reason that we as a society have built those destruction rooms, you know, like where you pay money to go in and like smash a microwave or something
You don't have
crazy.
to do that.
Don't have to do that. All I got to do is sing pearls because,
Yeah,
you know, over the years, like while we have had incredible, you know, champions and mentors and people who treated us without gender, which I think is the basis of, in some ways, equality of being willing to meet people on a
right.
individual, unique level. And that is so special. And we've had so much of that in our career, so much of that wonderful energy. But by the same token, we have run up against a lot of presumption and a lot of sexism. And again, I think based on our upbringing, you know, with Southern gentility as well. Uh, there are times when you know Megan and I have kept the peace in conversations. You know, being professional, being genteel with
Bless
certain
your heart.
the heart.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's all good and fine. But again, I think coming into our 30s, there is less bandwidth for I don't know, for accepting, pardon my language, someone else's shit, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, you need to get your worldview straight. Like, this is not on me, this is on you." And needing a little bit of that pressure release valve in order to be able to continue to be a good bastion for, you know, acceptance. Like I want to accept people as they come to me. And if that means that you're coming at me with some sexism, all right, like I'll accept it, but this is on you at a certain point, you know, like I'm going to love
Right.
you regardless. And I understand that it's coming from your own lack of intelligence or experience or whatever, but I'm also going to sing pearls on stage for me.
Yeah, as you should. Well, listen, I think, we've barely scratched the surface. I could talk to you guys for another hour about this because I think it's your best album to date.
Ooh.
I suspect that you may have to make room on whatever shelf you've got the Grammy on for another one to match it in next year at this time. But I know you have other people to talk to, so I'll let you go with one last question. How in the hell are you going to make 2025 compare with 2024?
Oh man, that's the beauty is we don't have to. Like
Good
2024 was
answer.
great, was amazing, and we don't even know what we're going to learn in 25. And I suspect it's going to be some really good stuff. I think that we're going to have some really unique, cool experiences.
I would suspect. All right. Well, listen, thanks so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you again down the road and not in a festival setting.
Yes, please come out and see us. We would really love that.
Oh, if this year you're in Vancouver when I'm in Toronto and you're in Toronto when I'm in Vancouver. So, but it'll happen somewhere. So anyway, you guys have to come across Canada again.
Yes,
Oh, we do.
it's
All right.
time. We
We'll
look
look
forward
forward
to
to
it.
that. All
Thank you
right.
so much. Have a good one.